Hello. So let us quickly start with what we left yesterday, the remaining chapter and the next thing that we have to see. So in the same chapter, we have to study about the parliament. Now we all know that parliament is the place where laws are made, the supreme legislative body of India. So let us see what is given in this our NCRT class 9th book. Now it explains a report of Mandal Commission that we saw last time giving OBC's reservation. So the report was discussed in the parliament. The president of India mentioned this in his speech to the parliament, and Prime Minister made a mention of it when he was delivering a speech. Decision was not directly taken in parliament, but parliamentary discussion on the report influenced and shaped the decision of the government. They brought pressure on the government to act on the Mandal recommendation. If parliament was not in favor of this decision, government could not have gone ahead with it. See, it was not a constitutional amendment. Okay, uh, like recently we had the reservation was extended to generals. I hope you are aware of this news. The EWS, economically weaker section, so that required a constitutional amendment. I'll tell you why. Now, this provision was just from the government, a cabinet decision which was implemented, not and in Indira Sahni case, we will learn this later. However, let me tell this to you now. It was said that the reservation cannot go beyond the threshold of 50%. It highest can be 50%. So already SC/STs were there, then OBCs were added. So the total threshold was at 50%. It cannot go beyond that. This is what the constitution said. Now the government of India decided to give it to economically weaker section in general candidates among the upper castes. So they had to go for a constitutional amendment. And your MP, Mr. Owaisi, he tweeted it. I remember it very well that this is unconstitutional. I replied to him, Mr. Barrister, the constitution is being amended. So how come it is unconstitutional? So this was a minor, maybe he was towing his party line, but there was nothing unconstitutional. A constitutional amendment is not unconstitutional until the Supreme Court of India says so. Supreme Court has not taken a call in it. If Supreme Court terms it as unconstitutional, then only we can say that. So why do we need a parliament? In all democracies, an assembly of elected representatives exercise supreme political authority on behalf of people. In India, that is called parliament at the national level. State level, it is the state assembly, legislative assembly. In Hindi, we call it Vidhan Sabha. Your state has a Vidhan Sabha. Every state in India has a Vidhan Sabha, and only two union territories, Delhi and Puducherry, have Vidhan Sabha. Third Vidhan Sabha would be given to Jammu and Kashmir, the third UT that would have Jammu and Kashmir, but it's still to be done. It will take some time, at least a year now. So, what is Parliament actually doing? It is the final authority for making laws in any country. This task of law making or legislation is so crucial that these assemblies are called legislatures. Everywhere in the world, Parliament is the same. Congress has, US has Congress, the Senate and the Congress, and then UK has House of Lords and House of Commons. So every country has this. Nepal has a parliament. So parliament all over the world exercise some control over those who run the government. Now let us try to understand this point. The ruling party BJP got 303 seats. See, I always try to come with live examples so that you can relate to it very well. And Modi ji becomes the prime minister. But he won 303 seats out of 543 seats in Lok Sabha, which means 543 minus 303 seats were won by some other parties. So they have also won elections. They are also representing their constituency. But since their number is uh, until not adds up to 272, that is why they are in the opposition. BJP is 272 plus, they're at 303, that is why they are running the government. But those who are running the government need to be accountable to the people of India. So this opposition, this 543 minus 303, will question them, will try to oppose them, like Mr. Ovesi did. You listen to your MP every time, even when this EWS quota was being brought. There's just a norm, I'm telling you, a parliamentary norm that the Speaker of the House said, do I have the consent of people of this house Mr. Owaisi rose up and said, "No, I do not give my consent." He also knew that he cannot do anything, but he was exercising his rights as an MP, being and his ideology being opposite to that of the government, to oppose the government policy. So through debates, discussions, persuasions, things are being done. Opposition forces, you see the Congress party, you see DMK party, you see Mr. Naveen Patnaik, Biju Janata Dal, these all are opposition parties. So they constantly, they make a government accountable by critically scrutinizing every step of the government. What happens is a debate happens. Opposition comes with its point, someone from the ministry, someone from the government replies to it. We as people of India, we discover, we learn what our elected representatives are up to. So, like the example of triple talaq, when the Union Law Minister, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, brought this bill and he gave a very passionate speech, some section of Indian Union Muslim League and again AIMIM, Overseas Party, they opposed it. So we, the citizens of India, got to know who is with this bill and who is against the bill. Okay, this is what the purpose of Parliament is. We, the citizens, must be aware of what their elected representatives are thinking about these important things. Of course, government has the number, so they will get the bill passed. But then government, let me tell you one more example. This land amendment bill was being brought. It was introduced through an ordinance 2 times. Ordinance is something when the house is not in session. Article 123 of the Indian Constitution. We have to see these things in detail. But see, just trying to convey you the second point that is given here. So, President of India, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee was the president. He asked the government, he asked Modi ji, why are you bringing ordinance for the second time? You are such a popular leader. You have breached the majority after 30 years. So why not bring a bill? So government had to call an all-party meeting, and everyone had to agree on certain point. Only then that bill was passed. So here comes the importance of opposition. Government must agree with some points with opposition as well, because unanimously bills will be passed. Third point, parliaments control all the money that government have. See, the entire, not entire, there is this contingency fund and there is this public account fund also. But let me, for the moment, just try to remember this, that the sarkari money, the government money is there in what is called Consolidated Fund of India. No one can withdraw even 1 rupee without the consent of the parliament. That is why budget is brought. Budget is actually a bill. The union budget is actually a bill where the government says these are the estimates of the coming financial year. Okay, I think I have told you this. So these are our estimates of revenue. These are our expenses where we will put in these money. So let me withdraw money from the CFI after the budget bill is filed. It is actually a financial bill. After it is passed, then only government is entitled to take money out of the consolidated fund. So public money is spent only when parliament sanctions it. So who will get the bill passed? The one who has the number. Who has the number? Government has the number. Opposition cannot get the bill passed, right? Opposition has no numbers. Opposition is 272 is well beyond the reach of the opposition. So, but yes, they can oppose, they can make noise. Me and you will hear that noise and we will know what the opposition is up to and how the government is replying to it. This is what enriches the democracy. Parliament is the highest forum of discussion and debate on public issue and national policy in any country. See, as concerned citizens of this country, me and you have all the rights to disagree with our government, but democratically and constitutionally. So when people who were opposing the Citizenship Amendment Act, see, an act is a law passed by the parliament. Okay, the entire weight of parliament is behind it. So when you challenge those law sitting on road, creating dharna, like it happened here in Shaheen Bagh, I'm sure in your city also there must be some Shaheen Bagh like that stuff. So they are undermining the role of the parliament. That is not how things are done. Challenge it in Supreme Court, get a judicial stay order, argue in court, get the judiciary to scrap it, or try to bring this government down. How can you bring the government down? Ask those leaders who are opposing CA to bring a no confidence motion. If that is passed, government will already go. Or you yourself try to be the government, fight the elections, and when you are elected, then scrap CA. But by sitting on roads, popular sovereignty, the goodwill of parliament is being eroded. This cannot be allowed to get a free run in this country. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has given a very famous speech, Grammar of Anarchy, where he has mentioned this categorically. When you get time, please try to read that speech someday. In India, we have two houses of parliament. Lok Sabha is the lower house, Rajya Sabha is the upper house. Why Rajya Sabha is there? Because one house is directly elected, that is Lok Sabha in India, and it exercises real power on behalf of people. So Lok Sabha's power are more than Rajya Sabha. How they are more, that we will see later. Two houses are here, and again it is written, all laws made in the house come into force only after they receive the assent of the president. So how the laws are being made, just a very brief example. We have to study it in great details. What is first reading, second reading, third reading of a bill, what is the committee stage, how it is published in the gazette, and how president issues the notification. I'm just giving you a brief summary of the entire process. Bill can be brought in either house of the parliament except for money bill. Okay, what is money bill? Later. So when the bill is brought in a particular house, it needs to be passed in that house. Now with majority. Now there is absolute majority, there is simple majority, there is special majority. Again, which type of majority depends on what type of bill is being passed. So we'll not go into all these details. Suppose it's a simple majority. The bill is being passed by one house. It will go to the second house. Again, the bill will be passed in the second house. Then it will go to the President of India. President of India will give his assent. Then the government will notify it. Then it will become a law. So the legislature process is until it goes to the President of India, it receives the presidential assent. After government notifies, it's an executive action. That's not a legislative action. So this is how laws are being made. So it's a cumbersome task, but a time-taking task, but actually a time-tested task. So that is why we follow it. And why two houses? Because whatever discrepancy, whatever shortcomings might have been in the bill when it was passed in one house, the second house can recheck it. It cannot pass the bill. The second house might not pass the bill. It will again go to the first house. So there are a lot of other permutation and combinations in this entire process that we'll see later on. Constitution does give Rajya Sabha some special power, but on most matters, Lok Sabha exercises supreme power. How? Ordinary law needs to be passed by both the house, but if there is difference between the two houses, the final decision is taken in the joint session. What will happen in joint session? Both the houses will sit together, 543 members of Lok Sabha, and maximum you can have 250 members in Rajya Sabha. So if there is a joint session, who will win? Of course, the majority will win. Who is having majority? Lok Sabha 543. Here they are 250 in Rajya Sabha. And who is having majority in Lok Sabha? The government of the day. But still, till date, only 3 laws in India have been passed through joint session. The third law was POTA, Prevention of Terrorist Act, which was passed when Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister. So only 3 laws have been passed through joint session. Again, it's a tough task to bring all the both the houses to issue orders to your MPs, and you can realize it from the fact that only 3 times the bill has been passed through joint session. Lok Sabha exercises more power in money matter. Yeah, on the Lok Sabha, once the Lok Sabha passes the budget of the government or any other money related law, the Rajya Sabha cannot reject it. Rajya Sabha has to agree with it. When it comes to spending money from CFI, Rajya Sabha cannot do anything. The philosophy, the rationale behind this act is, let those people who have won the election, only they can take a call whether government can spend the exchequer money or not the unelected people who are being nominated to Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha can delay it by 14 days or suggest changes. Lok Sabha may or may not accept these changes. If Rajya Sabha keeps it for more than 14 days, it is deemed to have been passed by Rajya Sabha. So actually, when it comes to money matter, Rajya Sabha has no say. Lok Sabha controls the Council of Ministers. Please remember this. The Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to Lok Sabha. This was asked in your prelims, and many students I know they made a mistake. They ticked on Parliament. No, Lok Sabha, because Parliament is Lok Sabha plus Rajya Sabha plus President. Okay, so it accountable to Lok Sabha. Even if the minister is from Rajya Sabha, a minister can participate in both the houses, but he can vote only in the house where he belongs to, which means a Rajya Sabha minister will vote in Rajya Sabha, a Lok Sabha minister will vote in Lok Sabha. However, they can take part in the proceedings of both houses. You have seen The Prime Minister and the Home Minister, they both are Lok Sabha MPs. They have several times been to Rajya Sabha and made speeches. The Foreign Minister of India is a Rajya Sabha MP. He has been to Lok Sabha and made speeches. But when it will come to voting, they will vote in their respective houses. So only a person who enjoys the support of majority of the members in the Lok Sabha is appointed the Prime Minister. This we have seen. And if the majority of Lok Sabha members say they have no confidence in the Council of Ministers, all ministers, including the Prime Minister, have to quit. Rajya Sabha does not have this power. No confidence bill, as I told you, if you are do not liking the action of the government, ask those people who are sitting there as an MP and who are backing your action of not liking the government's laws to bring a no confidence motion in Lok Sabha. It happened. It happened in 2019. What happened, I'll tell you some other day, because there are some more technicalities involved when we will see what is a no confidence motion. The last time it was brought against Atal Bihari Vajpayee and he lost it from one vote, by one vote. Next time it was brought against Narendra Modi. We'll see it surely what happened. We have the data, but before that we need to learn something. Now, political executive. MPs and MLAs are political executives, civil servants, bureaucrats are permanent executive. Just this is a very simple definition. That is what is written in these two paragraphs. I have just submit like this. All India services, uh, central government services, state PCS officers, they are permanent executive. Once they are into service, they can retire. MPs and MLAs, and of course, MPs and MLAs only become ministers. They are political executive because they may go after 5 years. This is the distinction. Both of them work in tandem and carry on the task. Here it is given political and permanent executive. So, permanent executive mainly assists, and after a certain level, after an IS officer is joint secretary or additional secretary or cabinet secretary is the senior most IS officer of India. Whosoever becomes cabinet secretary is the senior most IS officer. There he takes decision with the government. He sits with the prime minister and other cabinet ministers. Before that, IS level officer, district collectors, they are implementing what the government has asked them to do. Of course, they can take some discretionary decision. So they implement and make policies. This is the task of permanent executive. Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Prime Minister is the most important political institution, and President appoints the Prime Minister. Actually, President appoints the leader of the largest single largest party. Council of Ministers is the name given. Cabinet word is not even used in the Constitution. Cabinet ministers are decided by the Prime Minister because he has to take them. Suppose you are the captain of your team, of your cricket team, then the playing 11 will be largely decided by you. That is what happens with the Prime Minister. He decides who will be my minister. Then, oh, we have discussed it. Minister of State with independent charge. Yes, we have discussed it. I gave you the example of people like MJ Akbar, Kiran Rijiju, Shashi Tharoor. Please revisit that class if you have an issue, or you can just read it here. It is very lucidly mentioned here. Now, no minister can openly criticize any decision of the government, even if it's about any because entire ministry functions on what is called collective responsibility. The cabinet, the council of ministers sink and swim together. You can criticize the policy before the policy is being implemented. There are several BJP MPs who are very much against their government at some time. Okay, so they criticize it. No, don't do this. But once the government decides to take the action, they must keep quiet because the collective wisdom has to prevail over individual wisdom. So once the decision is taken, the minister cannot kind of criticize it. Now, Arif Mohammad Khan, please remember this name because it will come very handy when we will discuss the Shah Bano case. Arif ji was MOS Home, Minister of State Home when Mr. Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister, and he opposed a certain bill passed by Mr. Rajiv Gandhi cabinet. He had to resign. Ideally, this is how it happens. Powers of PM, almost entire power. Constitution does not say very much about the power of PM, but as the head of the government, the PM has wide-ranging power. There is nothing which he cannot do. His decisions are final. He exercises general supervision of different ministries. Of course, if there is a confrontation between two ministries, Prime Minister can always sort it out. He can dismiss the ministers. He distributes and redistributes works to the minister. When the PM quits, the ministry quits. Collective responsibility, as I told you, they will sink and swim together. So cabinet is most powerful, and amongst the cabinet, the PM is most powerful. You see one of the most powerful PMs of our time, Mrs. Indira Gandhi. She was running the whole show. So you see all the other ministers are appearing to be dwarf in front of her. Even the current prime minister, he's a cult personality. He's a very iconic and very charismatic personality. But then it's not very often seen that any minister takes any stance which is opposite to that of the prime minister. So they are going by what is called collective responsibility in the constitution. Now, prime minister, political parties have come to play a major role in politics. PM controls the cabinet and parliament through the party. Media also contributes to this trend by making politics and elections as competition between top leaders of party. You see this versus that, Rahul versus Modi. Whether there is a competition or not, the media will plug two leaders in front of each other. So this is how charismatic politics is perpetuated on us. So in India also we have seen Jawaharlal Nehru exercised enormous authority. Of course he did. He had great influence over the public. Indira Gandhi had something similar, and the current Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, has something similar. He has this authority. When he takes a shot, he can back it up. And he asks people to do that. You see, lighting diyas in the balcony, and the entire India rushes up. In fact, some of them also started burning crackers, which he never asked for. So yeah, he knows that he has the pulse of people is in his control. Now comes the coalition government. Here, different when there is a fractured mandate, when no party has achieved 272, then like-minded parties come together and form the government. So there, Prime Minister cannot take all the calls. He has to consult his uh, alliance partners. Vajpayee was running an alliance. Dr. Manmohan Singh was running an alliance. In 30 years, there was an alliance after Rajiv Gandhi until Narendra Modi arrived. So these prime ministers were not very strong prime ministers because they were always wondering that maybe my one alliance party will go angry over one step and they will withdraw the support and my government will fall. So half the time they were worrying over these things. So when you are worrying like that, you cannot take decisive decision. Mr. Modi has no such worries. He got numbers on his own. So you see the steps that he takes. Okay, decisive steps, whether right or wrong, that we can see in retrospect and criticize or appreciate, but steps are very decisive. In Hindi we call it nirnayak kadam uthate hain. Matlab, he intends to make a difference and without worrying about the electoral consequence of his actions. Now the prime minister is the head of the government, the president is the head of the state. This we have seen. And you see the honorable prime minister and the honorable president of India in this picture. I'm happy that this book has updated it. 30th May 2019. Wow, the very recent picture it has given. When Modi ji became PM for the second time. So it is the president who administers the oath to the PM and his entire council of ministers. Okay, the name is forwarded to the president by the prime minister that these are my ministers. Please administer their oath to the office. And this happened. I am sure you must have seen that very iconic image of our democracy. President is not directly elected. MPs and MLAs elect the president. MPs and MLAs. And that too elected MPs and elected MLAs. Now, what is the difference between an elected MP and other MP that we can see later on, or an elected MLA or an MLC maybe that we will see later. So a candidate who stands for president post has to get a majority of votes to win. Now this is one of the most complicated process, the election of president. It's actually a proportionate representation. Preference votes are given. There are three formulas which I don't intend to discuss here because in class 9th NCERT it's not given. Some other day we will talk at it on length. Don't worry, we'll see it in great details. Currently, elected MPs and elected MLAs elect the president of India. Me and you, citizens of India, have no vote while the president of India is being elected. So usually what happens, the government again wins, whosoever is backed by the government will win the presidential election because again the number lies with the government of India. The laws and all the major policy decisions are taken on the name of the president, but yeah, are done by the prime minister. So this is what we have seen here. Uh, there's nothing much that is left. Actually, this presidential system, India has not followed it. US has, and this we will study in when we'll study the comparative constitution. So I'm leaving it here. The remaining part we'll check in the next weekday from Monday onwards. I think within 2 days I'll complete this book, and then we'll move to the class 10th NCRT. You will be promoted to the new class. I'll give you a video about. I'll make a video and send it to you regarding your answers and the keywords that we have to do. Hopefully, we'll do it tomorrow. So till then, please take good care, keep studying, and keep yourself in good health.